We were just like vampires living in a dungeon. That is not a line from one of her films. No green screen, no costume, no director calling cut.
That was Billy Bob Thornton, her husband, describing what it was like to love Angelina Jolie. And when a man uses that sentence to summarize his marriage, you have to stop and ask, who, exactly, is the woman the world thinks it knows? One of the most enduring legends of Angelina's past is her penchant for blood, specifically, the wearing of it as jewelry. This particular chapter of her life is inextricably linked to her second husband, Billy Bob Thornton. Their marriage, which lasted from 2000 to 2003, was a whirlwind of public displays of passion that many observers found unsettling. Thornton has frequently described those 3 years as some of the most intense and crazy times of his life. At the height of their romance, rumors swirled about their lifestyle, including claims that they kept ceremonial daggers under their pillows and engaged in dark rituals. However, it was the small, translucent vials hanging from their necks that truly captured the public's morbid curiosity. To the average onlooker, it seemed like something out of a gothic horror novel, but to the couple, it was a profound gesture of commitment. In a candid interview with The Hollywood Reporter, years after their split, Thornton sought to demystify the blood vial saga, though his explanation only served to highlight how differently the couple viewed the world. He explained that the idea was born out of a desire to feel connected while they were physically separated by their demanding film schedules. At the time, Angelina was in the midst of filming the high-octane Lara Croft, Tomb Raider, while Billy Bob was on the set of the gritty drama Monster S. Ball. The distance was difficult for them, and Angelina, ever the romantic of the macabre, suggested a unique way to keep each other close. She purchased 2 lockets, the kind usually reserved for a photograph of a loved one or a lock of hair, and proposed they fill them with their own fresh blood. To Billy Bob, the act was no different than a mother carrying a lock of her child's hair in her wallet. Yet he acknowledged how it looked to the outside world. He joked that they were perceived as vampires living in a dungeon, a narrative that the media was all too happy to feed. This blood bonding was a testament to Angelina's intensity. She didn't just want to love someone. She wanted to merge with them on a biological level. It was a visceral, primal form of romance that bypassed traditional jewelry in favor of something that carried the very essence of life. This period of her life established her as a woman who found beauty in the unconventional, a theme that would continue to surface in her later relationships, albeit in much darker ways. As the years passed and Angelina moved into her era with Brad Pitt, the world thought she had finally settled into a more conventional life. Brangelina became the gold standard for Hollywood power couples, a seemingly perfect union of beauty, talent, and philanthropy. However, the 2016 divorce proceedings shattered that illusion, bringing to light allegations and secrets that were far more disturbing than anything from her time with Thornton. During the heated legal battle, reports surfaced regarding a series of audio recordings totaling over 100 hours that Brad Pitt had reportedly compiled. These tapes allegedly contained Brad's private confessions to his therapist, Dr. Ron Bard, detailing the psychological volatility and the unusual sexual preferences of his then-wife. According to these accounts, the intimacy between Brad and Angelina was often marked by a dark, self-destructive edge. Brad allegedly lamented to his therapist that Angelina had a fixation on blood and pain during their private moments. He claimed that she would frequently cut her own skin and allow the blood to drip onto him, an act that he found deeply unsettling rather than erotic. This revelation suggested that the blood vial phase with Thornton wasn't just a youthful whim, but a deep-seated part of her psyche that associated physical pain and biological fluids with emotional connection. Furthermore, the tapes suggested a penchant for bondage, with Brad reportedly mentioning that she enjoyed being restrained. These glimpses into their bedroom life painted a picture of a relationship fueled by an intensity that eventually became unsustainable for Pitt. Beyond the physical aspects of their relationship, the recordings also touched upon Angelina's mental health struggles. Brad reportedly described periods of deep depression where Angelina would withdraw from the world entirely. He claimed she would lock herself in a room for days at a time, refusing to eat or speak to anyone, effectively going on hunger strikes as a way to cope with her internal turmoil. This image of a starving, isolated starlet is a far cry from the vibrant woman the public saw on screen, highlighting the immense pressure and perhaps the inherent darkness she carried within her. These episodes of mental collapse were, according to the reports, a significant strain on their marriage. As Brad struggled to navigate the highs and lows of her complex emotional landscape, the drama didn't stop at their personal interactions. It also extended to the ghosts of Brad's past. One of the most contentious points in their marriage was reportedly Angelina's intense jealousy regarding Brad's first wife, Jennifer Aniston. Despite the years that had passed since their divorce, the shadow of Aniston seemed to loom large over the Pitt-Jolie household. The leaked information suggested that Angelina was vehemently opposed to Brad maintaining any form of friendship or contact with Jennifer. Her resentment was so potent that she allegedly threatened to have her lawyers drag Aniston into court if Brad didn't sever ties. This possessiveness added another layer to the narrative of Angelina as a woman who demanded total devotion, often at the expense of her partner's autonomy and past connections. While these stories of her adult life are often what dominate the headlines, the roots of Angelina's strange behavior can be traced back to a very peculiar childhood. Long before she was an Oscar-winning actress, she was a young girl with a fascination for the end of life. Most children dream of becoming doctors, teachers, or perhaps astronauts, but Angelina's aspirations were much more somber. At a young age, she decided she wanted to be a funeral director. This wasn't a passing phase. It was a genuine career goal, born out of a dissatisfaction with how society handled death. She recalled attending funerals as a child and feeling that the ceremonies were inadequate, failing to truly honor the life of the person who had passed. She believed she could do a better job of crafting a meaningful farewell. Driven by this macabre ambition, a 14-year-old Angelina actually took steps to make it a reality. She enrolled in a mail-order course to study funeral directing and eventually received a certificate of completion. This early obsession with the rituals of death provides a crucial context for her later behaviors. If she saw beauty in the transition from life to death, it explains why she found romance in blood and comfort in the dark. For her, the creepy was simply another form of meaningful. She wasn't trying to be shocking for the sake of attention. She was genuinely wired to find depth in the things most people try to avoid. The age of 14 was a pivotal year for Jolie in more ways than one. It was the year she embraced her dark interests, but it was also the year she experienced a level of romantic intensity that most people don't encounter until much later in life. At 14, she entered into a serious relationship with a boy her age and was so convinced he was the one that she wanted to get married immediately, in a move that would be considered highly unconventional by modern parenting standards. Her mother, Marceline Bertrand, allowed the boyfriend to move into their home. Angelina later explained that her mother preferred them to be safe under her roof rather than out on the streets or in some reckless situation. This live-in arrangement lasted for 2 years, during which the young couple lived like a married pair. They shared a room, shared their lives, and navigated the complexities of cohabitation while still in their early teens. However, the relationship eventually crumbled, and they broke up when she was 16. The end of this teenage marriage was a devastating blow to Angelina, marking her first real experience with profound heartbreak. Yet, in typical Jolie fashion, she channeled that pain into her work. The dissolution of her first major love became the catalyst that drove her to focus intensely on her acting career. She took the raw, unbridled emotions of her youth and poured them into her performances, creating the edge that would eventually make her a star art. Despite her history of intense, skin-to-skin romances, Angelina has also spoken about a surprising aversion to physical touch in her daily life. As she grew older, she found herself becoming increasingly uncomfortable with hugs, even from people she loved. This sensory boundary extended even to her own mother. She once shared in an interview that as she entered adulthood, she began to recoil from physical affection, finding the act of hugging to be intrusive or overwhelming. This is a fascinating contradiction for a woman who would later become a mother to 6 children, a role that requires constant physical contact and nurturing. It suggests a complex internal struggle between a desire for deep, almost spiritual connection and a need for rigid personal boundaries. Perhaps the most defining struggle of her early career, however, was her relationship with her father, the legendary actor Jon Voight. Being the daughter of an Academy Award winner provided her with a foot in the door. She even made her film debut alongside him in the 1982 movie Lookin' to Get Out. But it also came with a heavy burden. Angelina was fiercely independent and grew to resent the idea that her success was a byproduct of her father's fame. She didn't want to be Jon Voight's daughter. She wanted to be an artist in her own right. The tension between them was palpable, fueled by his past infidelities and their clashing personalities. In 2002, she took the ultimate step in distancing herself from his legacy by legally dropping Voight from her name. She chose to go by Angelina Jolie, using her middle name as her surname to forge a new identity. This wasn't just a professional rebranding. It was a declaration of independence. She wanted to stand on her own 2 feet, judged solely on her own merits rather than her pedigree. This drive to self-actualize, to strip away the expectations of others and live according to her own internal compass, is perhaps the most consistent thread in her life. Whether it was changing her name, studying to be a funeral director, or wearing a vial of blood, every choice was a step toward defining herself on her own terms. To understand Angelina Jolie is to accept that she is a woman of profound dualities. She is the vampire in the basement and the angel on the battlefield of humanitarian crises. She is the woman who fears a simple hug but will cut her own skin to feel a deeper connection with a lover. Her ex-partners have provided us with a window into her wild side, but what they often describe as weird or unstable can also be seen as a relentless pursuit of authenticity in a world that often demands conformity. Her interests in the spiritual, the macabre, and the unconventional are not just phases or quirks. They are the building blocks of a woman who has never been afraid to look into the darknesses and find something beautiful. The stories of the blood vials and the bedroom secrets are a part of Hollywood lore now, serving as a reminder of the era when Angelina was the industry's most unpredictable firebrand.